Welcome to today's session of CRM function online training. So let's start with what we'll get in today's session of transaction processing. Today's session is divided into three parts. In the first part, we'll be discussing about text determination, wherein we'll look how we can configure new text types and how text could be determined automatically in the transaction from various sources such as business partners and product masters. In our second part, we'll be discussing about incompleteness procedure. We'll look how we can make certain fields in a transaction as mandatory and report them as an error or a warning message that these fields need to be filled in. In our third part, we'll be looking into how we can display various business transactions in account overview page, how we can filter out various transactions such as activity, sales order, quotations into different assignment blocks, and they will be filtered out based upon either status or the time when they were created or on some other date types. So without further delay, let us get started. Text determination. There are three elements to configuring text in SAP CRM. Text type, where text will be entered or copied. You can see example of text types like customer instruction, agent notes, or invoice instruction. So it's a text type name, where a text will be entered or could be copied from somewhere else. Then we have a text determination procedure, which consists of various text types. And we have an access sequence which determines where to get the text from. So the text types are names of the text containers. SAP CRM supplies an exhaustive set of text types, but new ones can be defined as per customer requirement. These are also associated with objects in CRM like business partner, master data, and transactions. Now the text determination procedure is essentially a collection of text types. This procedure is assigned to CRM objects. We'll look into it how. This way the objects in CRMs are associated with text types. Now for each text type in the procedure, an access sequence is assigned. The access sequence determines where to fetch the text that needs to be populated into a text type. Thus either user can input the text manually or it can be copied from other locations, like access sequence for a text type in a transaction can be set to fetch the text from text type in business partner master data. So SAP CRM uses transactions to register opportunities, quotations, order, activities, and many other types of transactions. Within these transactions, you can use a text block to register comments or create visit reports. This is unstructured text. Now, employees should fill this text block with useful information. Sometimes companies define a procedure like how to fill the text block to have some structured way of filling. This is, however, a very simple solution to put a fixed text format in this text block. Now, let us look into some of the terminologies and how we can define it. We will be looking into standard text. So if you want to use text repeatedly, you can create them as standard text and then include them in the text such as transaction text. Now, unlike a text from master record, transaction text is not object specific. You can define a text which work as a template, guiding the employee for filling the text block. The text can be freely defined using transaction SO10. For example, you can define some keywords like question, answer, comment, question, results to define the place where employees can put the relevant information. So let us look into the transaction. In our SAP GUI, we'll type in SO10. So the standard text, you can create this new text or look into the previously created text. So let us find some text, click on execute. So it's so many text like intro. So let us look how it is defined. So click on display. The standard text, the language is English, and this is the text name. And here you can write hello, this is easy for your company. Do you have time to transfer a few short questions? Now let us try to create a new text like Z test standard text. I click on create. So here we can write I am XYZ, and this is my first standard text, and I click on save. We go back. So we have created our first standard text. So using the text determination procedure assigned to the transaction, SAP CRM system can read this text and put this in the standard text. Now what is the text object? The text object is used to define the connection between a business object, for example a transaction, and associated text. SAP provides the text object and the state object are programmed into the application programs. What is the text type? The classification of different text that can be defined. Now SAP provides numerous text types. You can also create new text type in the system. New text types are created using SE75. So let us look how. We go to the transaction SE75. So we have text object and text IDs. So first click on display. So these are the text objects corresponding to each text object, like suppose business partner, beauty 000. You can see the text IDs. So these are the text IDs that has been created. Now if you want to create a new text ID, what you have to go and click on change. The settings are valid in all clients, so it's a cross client. So you go to beauty 000 and you click on edit, click on OK, you double click. You can create a new text ID, like you can give the name Z01 and description as my first text ID. Display the title, you can set that to X format. So here we have Z01. So click on save. So observe name range, YZ for customers, JNC for partners, AX for SAP. We saved it. Now we can also create new text objects. Click on new. The text object is ZTXT object. My first text object. Save mode is update. The line will be 100. Select the style. You can select documentation, form, print object, editor application, documentation. Click on save. So you're done. Click on save. Go back. Save object, yes. Save anyway, yes. So you're done. We go to display. So here is our text object, ZTXT object. We go back. We click on change. We go to our text object. We can create new text IDs like Z01, 01 text ID. We create another text ID Z02, 02 text ID. Click on save. So we saw how we can create new text objects, assign and create text IDs to the text object. So we learned that text objects and text IDs can be created using transaction SC75, and standard text can be created using SO10. Now what is the text determination procedure? So you use the definition of a text determination procedure to define which text types are assigned to this in customizing for text management. You can make additional settings for each text type such as display, change, and type of access sequence. Only the text type customer description is allowed in transaction internet, and additional text type cause is allowed for service process. If you want to perform a business grouping, although the same text object exists, you can do this by using the text determination procedure. You assign an access sequence to a text type in the definition of text determination procedure, and the access sequence defines the type and sequence of access. So you can use the text determination to define from where the system is to take a text. Let's create a lead and try to understand the features of text management. We go to create lead. We enter description as my text processing test. Search for a prospect. Scroll down to notes. Click on create new notes. So you can find we have two kinds of note, description and note. Right for my in description we use my description test. Let's skip it description and we click on back. So here we have a description. Let's create the new. Let's create the note type and my note test, and we go back and we save. So over here you find that there are two kind of texts. So let's go to the configuration and check. So in SPRO, SAP reference IMG, we go to customer relationship management. We go to transactions, basic settings, define transaction type. We search for our transaction type. Our transaction type is lead. So we check the lead and we go on details. So over here we can find the text determination procedure that has been assigned. We copy it and we go back and we will check that in the basic functions. So in basic functions we have our text management. Over here we can go to define text determination procedure. In the text objects, you have to first understand what kind of text determination procedure it is. So as the text determination procedure has been assigned to a transaction header, so it will be assigned to CRM order H. Over here you have to go to the procedure. So this is our text object. Over here we have to search for the text determination procedure lead 001. So we check this text determination procedure and go to the definition of the procedure. So you can find there are two different text types. One is description, other one is note. The sequence is 1 and 2. We have several fields like changes, transfer, obligatory access, and access sequence. So we will be learning about it in detail. So let us understand the things that are present over here. So first you can add any new text type. We can select a new text type. So you can search for the text type. So as we have seen that we can create new text type corresponding to a text object. So you can enter your desired text type. You have to assign the sequence. You can assign what is the changes, like suppose we assign the text type something that logs. Okay, let's use this log. Now I give it a sequence as 3. Now what are the changes? Should the changes be display only, or it should be a paste or edit? So I want to display the log. Okay, so whatever the changes that has been made to the other text type, I want to display it. So I select display log. Then we have a transfer type. So we can have different kinds of transfers. Like suppose if you have selected blank. Okay, so it's not defined. So this is the initial value. It is only to be certain cases where no access sequence and therefore no text determination has been entered for the text type in the definition of text determination procedure. Then we have A, which means copy. So the system saves the current source text by using a new key for the target text. In this way, the system creates a copy of the current source text. The copy has no connection to the original source text. Therefore, changes to the source text does not affect the target text. So you are just copying it from a different location, but you are keeping your own copy. So from the source, if something gets changed in the source, the copied text doesn't get changed. Then we have save reference. So in this, the system saves a reference to the source text. The system reads the current version of each source text, and as soon as the user changes the text for the target object that this has been assigned, the reference gets deleted. Then we have another C, only read dynamically. So here text template is created by using text determination and is made available to the application. The text of the reference is not saved. We can mark the text as obligatory. In that case, it will be mandatory. Then we have the access sequence. So in definition of access sequence, you define the name for the access sequence in customizing for text management. In addition, you define which text is to be used as the source text and sequence in which the system searches. So we'll discuss this access sequence a bit later on. So let's click on enter and we save it. We go back. So we have three text types now: description, note and log. We have the sequence. Now in the changes, I can mark if I want to log the changes that has been entered. So I have to select P, and for note also P. So whatever changes someone makes to those logs would be captured in the display log. So we mark P for the changes and mark R for display log for the changes, and I click on save. Now let's again create a lead. So we have defined a new text type. So let's check it. We go and we write description as my description. We go back. So you see the new text type log which we have defined shows the changes that has been made. Now let's create another note. Use the text type note and say my note. Go back. Now let's again go to my description and change the description to my new description, and we go back and we will see the functionality of the logs. So here you can see the log. Let's click on it. So you can see description which has been changed, then my new description, note, the initial changes was made. So this is just showing you the log. It's a display only. Okay. Now after we have saved the lead, you can see only the log appears, but if we again go and create the description as my new description after save, and we go back and save it, and then we check the log. So then you can see in the description, the text type description, my new description after save, the date, time and the user ID that changed it is shown. And in the previous time, the description, the date, time and the user ID shows my new description. So after every save, now the log will capture the thing that has been entered in your text type, but the text types that were earlier appearing will not be visible as such. Only the log will be available. But you can always go and change description or the text type. Note, my new note after save. And we go back and again save it. So we'll be able to see the log, because the log is only relevant after you have saved it. So again go and check the log. You can see my new note after save. So in the notes, it first shows you which text type, then the date, time and the user ID and what was the change. Again the new text type and the change, like this. So this is one of a useful functionality. Now let's understand the functionality of access sequence. Corresponding to a text object, we can define access sequence. So if you take the example of CRM order H, you can go and click on access sequence. So these are the various accesses that has been created. In the definition of access sequence, you define the name of the access sequence in customizing. You can also define which text is to be used as a source text and the sequence in which the system searches. So let's take the example of access 01 business partner text and go to definition of access sequence. So you can find here we have defined the sequence in the system to search the copy from. This is a text object, and which text type should be used is defined in copy from. So if I go to the F4 help of copy from, you can see corresponding to text object BUT000, we have created different text IDs. So you can use this as a reference. Now if we select this and we go to assignment of fields, you can see key fields, key reference key structure and communication structure. Well, since the field names can differ from one another, the fields in the communication structure must be assigned exactly to the fields in the key structure for the source text. For example, the sold to party field in the transaction is called sold to party in the communication structure and partner in the key structure. Now, as you can see, the communication structure is defined over here. The communication structure is very important with reference to text determination. Like if you enter a product in a transaction, so the system passes this information on to text determination in the communication structure. Text determination can then be used, for example, to copy a text from the product master, providing that the product master is set in text determination. Now if I go back to the definition of access sequence, you can find a function model. So what is the use of this function model? SAP provides a standard function module, com text, determine text, which can be used as a reference, but why do you need it? Now take a scenario that you have a ship to party and you cannot guarantee a delivery within 24 hours. Now you want to describe this in an additional standard text. In this case, you can create your own function module that checks data in the communication structure for special cases and determines whether a corresponding standard text is to be used or a new one needs to be created. The function module must correspond to certain rules, and the standard function module CRM text determine text could be used as an example, but you have to make sure the new function module must have the same import and export data. Now we have a field continue. So this is used to whether to tell the system to whether to continue search even if the text is found. If this indicator has been set, the system displays the further texts. This is very important if you require identical text in several languages. It is also possible to check for consistency of the customizing you do. So in text management, you can check the text customizing for consistency. So you can select which text object or which text determination procedure or which access sequence you want to run the consistency check. So suppose we give the CRM order H transaction header and you want to execute. So the system will display a list of messages as a result of this check. So you see we got one error. Some green messages, some yellow messages, some red messages. So red means with error, yellow means warning, green means without errors. So the access sequence that has been defined over here, the field is not in key structure. So this kind of inconsistency could be reported. Warning messages could be given like access sequence 03 has no usage in text determination procedure. So you can modify or correct your customizing as per the result. You can also define the language for internal communication. In this customizing, you define the internal communication language to be used for notes. So unless you define a language or languages in the table, the default language for notes is your logon language, which that means user who log on in other languages cannot see the notes. So text management enables you to describe transactions or objects in detail. Text can be available at header level as well as item level. For that, we have to assign the text determination procedure to a transaction type as well as item category. Different text types can be used like header note, customer wish, and text can be determined automatically. Determine the text from product master data. We saw that how by using access sequence we can also copy the text from different objects like business partner or product master. Now the added text could be changed manually, and text are displayed in the section notes in the header as well as item level. So you have a notes assignment block. In addition, the first editable text type from the assigned text profile is displayed and editable in the form of views of header and item level. So we are assigning the text determination procedure to a transaction type or an item category. So the text determination procedure determines which application can use the procedure, that is, which text objects. We saw that we have several text objects like CRM order H or beauty 000. Which text type should be displayed? Corresponding to a text object, we have different text types for like internal note, customer inquiry, report. How should text in the document be processed? Like whether it's a mandatory, we can check the obligatory checkbox to make a text mandatory or optional. Whether it should be changeable or so on, that could be logged using the display options, like whether it should be editable, display only. And how should the text be determined? Via access sequence. Let us understand the features of incompleteness check. It's a very useful feature which SAP CRM provides you to determine whether important data that you need to complete is missing in a business transaction. The incompleteness check is available to in CRM Enterprise, Internet Sales, Partner Channel Management, and Interaction Center. So it will give you an application log wherein you can identify, okay, this transaction is incomplete with reference to some fields. So the status of that transaction will be incomplete. You can make settings for the incompleteness check in business transactions. You can define when a business transaction system should be considered incomplete and what kind of message the system should issue during data processing, like whether it will be a warning or it will be an error. You can restrict the incompleteness check to individual transaction type and to individual business partners. The scope of check can differ for each object. For example, the system checks different fields in sales order, then it checks in opportunity. A message in the application log like this will inform you of the missing data in the transaction document. You can branch to the fields in which data is missing and make entries directly from the incompleteness log. You can specify in customizing whether a warning or error message should be issued. So incompleteness check will be handled in transaction type or item category or in customer master data. But we will be assigning an incompleteness group. We'll look into the customizing in the system. So in the incompleteness procedure, you can maintain which fields are mandatory, which message type is it, error or warning, and how does the system react. And does it set the status to incomplete for delivery? So not only you can make the incompleteness check dependent on transaction type, you can also specify restriction for certain business partners. So in the incompleteness check procedure for like quotations, you specify that the fields must be filled for the validity period. And if you do not enter any value in these fields, the fields are checked as incomplete. The system issues a message in the application log. So now let us check in the web UI how you can set up the incompleteness check and what effect does it have on the transaction. So first, let us create a lead from GUI. So we can create a lead from CRM_order. So we will first try to create a document, a lead, without having set the incompleteness procedure and see how it behaves, and then we will try to set up the incompleteness procedure and see how it behaves. So we go to business transaction, go to create. So this is just another way of demonstrating how we can create a transaction from GUI. So we go to create business transaction and select on lead to create a lead from GUI. So give it a description to check incompleteness. Let's find the sales prospect. So you can see the interface looks different from what you see in web UI. So you must have liked web UI so far. The GUI was the earlier version people used to use before web UI came into existence, which is much more user friendly. So let's take this. Now let's take, we have not given any origin. Okay, check the organization data. So let's populate some organization data. Go back to details. Please note we have not selected any origin, and we click on save. So you see there are no errors and our document got saved. So the only thing we did in our lead is we gave a description, we entered a sales prospect, and we entered the organization data. Now let us go to SPRO, and we want to make the end user enter our origin, and if someone is not entering your origin, you want to mark that transaction as incomplete. So let's see how you can do it. So we go to customer relationship management, we go to transactions, we go to basic settings, and we go to incompleteness check. So here we can define incompleteness procedure. We click on this execute button in this node. So you can see we can have incompleteness group for a transaction, you can have incompleteness group for business partners, and you can assign your incompleteness group to a transaction type or item categories, and then you can define your incompleteness procedure in details, where you will be setting which fields to check, what type of message you want to display, whether it's an error message or a warning message. So let's try to create our incompleteness group first. So let's give it a name as lead group, lead group, lead incompleteness, lead incom group. So let's go and save it. Let's save the changes in transport request, and we want to assign this incompleteness group to a transaction type lead. So we search for our transaction by using the position. So in the lead, we assign the incompleteness group lead, the lead incompleteness group. Okay. Now what we need to do is we have to set up this incompleteness procedure. When you go to incompleteness procedure, over here we can see we have two incompleteness procedures. We click on new entries, and we click a new procedure lead, and we give it a name as lead procedure. Click on enter and we click on save. Now please note, in the lead incompleteness procedure we have to define the incompleteness procedure in detail. So we go over here and we click on new entry. So you have to set the object name and the field name. So let's go and use the F4 help and select the object name as lead header. So we have an object lead underscore h, which is lead header data. So use it. Then we have to set which field we want it to be, the incompleteness procedure to work on. So we use the F4 help, and we want the lead origin, so it's source. Now whether the relevance will be header and item, or header or item only, so let's keep it unchanged. And the message category should be warning. I want to stop the transaction, and I click on save. So now I have defined my incompleteness procedure, and I want to get it determined. So we have to link the incompleteness group with the incompleteness procedure. So I click on new entries, and my incompleteness group is lead, and my incompleteness procedure is also lead. Click on enter. So you can see the lead incompleteness group is assigned to lead procedure. So there are 3 steps. In the first step, we define an incompleteness group. In the second step, we assign the incompleteness group to a transaction. And in the third step, we define the incompleteness procedure in detail. And finally, in the fourth step, we do the determination of which incompleteness group we are linking to which incompleteness procedure. So there are 3 plus 1, 4 steps. Now let us see the effect of this setting on creation of a lead. So let's open the CRMD_order. We're checking it via GUI. We go to business transaction create. We select lead and we can either double click on it or we can click on this create button over here. So we give the description after setting income. We search for a sales prospect, maybe 50. Click on enter. We go to organization. Let us use the F4 help to find the organization details. So after entering the organization details, if you click on the error message over here, you can find the transaction is incomplete, enter origin. So since in the details tab we have not entered the origin, we are receiving this transaction as incomplete. Still, let us save this transaction. Now I would also like to show you there is one report that can be used for selecting the incomplete transaction. The report name is CRM_order_incomp_check. You can note down this program name. It's a very important report which can be used for identifying the incomplete transaction. So if you click on execute, we can select the business transaction category and the transaction number, object type and field names, and click on execute for checking transactions for incompleteness. We select lead. So our transaction number was 36. The object type, so our object type is lead, so let us search it. Lead header data, and if you click on execute, you can find the transaction comes and the field name that is incomplete is source. You can get the ID, the object name and the field name that is missing. So this is how you can check for the transactions that are incomplete. So you see, this is an important functionality which can be used for making any field of a transaction as mandatory and making the end users fill that field by either displaying an error message or a warning message. There is a very useful functionality in SAP CRM that you can show certain transactions in business partners so that by opening an account you can see what are the corresponding contacts, planned activities, leads, opportunities, interaction history or sales orders that has been created for this account. So it gives you a 360-degree view of the customer. What are the transactions that you have created for this account? It is also possible that you can filter and show only selected transactions based upon their status or based upon their times in these assignment blocks. So as you can see in a corporate account, we have contacts, planned activities, leads, opportunities, interaction, assignment block. So let us see in the system the functionality. This is the home page of the Sales Pro role. Let us move to some leads. So you can see this lead has been created for some prospect. So let us move to this prospect, as this is an account. So over here you can see the planned activities, interaction history, opportunities. So the activities which has been created using this account but which are not yet completed or closed will appear in the planned activities assignment block. And once the activity is completed, it should be moved to the interaction history. So let us try and close one activity and see this functionality. It works. Now, for getting this functionality, we have to configure certain things. We will look into it. So you can do the settings for interaction history, activities, opportunities, quotations, sales agreement, sales order, and deals. These are the transactions that could be made available in assignment blocks of account. So now let's go to the configuration. So in our UI, let's go to SPRO, SAP reference IMG. In customer relationship management, in master data, business partner, specify display option for business transactions. So over here you have a PFCG role ID, a area, a time frame, the description, and the statuses. So it is basically possible to filter based upon the PFCG role of a business role, which transactions that you want to show, the time period, and the status. So we define the time period in a time frame and the status open, completed, and released. So we can do timely filtering and filtering by status. So now let us understand certain things. So if you want that for a particular PFCG role ID, this will be the behavior, then you can assign a PFCG role ID as already been assigned. The area represents the transaction type for which the settings is being done. So you can see AC for activities, interaction history, leads, opportunities, quotations, sales agreements, and sales order. So you can individually define for which type of transactions you want what kind of settings. Now there is time frame. So as you can see whether it's valid for today. So only the transactions that are valid as on today or yesterday or tomorrow, this month, next month, last year, this year, next year. So you can define the different time ranges satisfying which the transaction would be visible in those assignment blocks. And as we saw that we can also make settings in such a way that they are specific to certain business rules by using the PFCG role ID, and if you are assigning blank, then they are valid across different roles. They are valid for all applications. Now it is also possible to filter it based upon status. So you can see the activities would be visible in the planned activities based on open status. So whatever activities will be open, they will be visible. The interaction history will consist of those activities which has been completed. Now opportunity, it will only show those opportunities that have been open. Now as we saw, based upon the current configuration, the interaction history, as soon as we completed one activity, moved on to interaction history. Now if I click on open and I don't select the completed and I change my save, so I removed the tick from completed and made it open. So what will happen is all the activities that are open will be shown in the planned activities assignment block, and even in interaction history, those activities will be shown that are open. So basically your planned activities and interaction history will contain the same data. There will be no difference. So let us see. the effect of this configuration. So here we are in a corporate account. Let's go back to the home. So our account ID was 71. So we had initially saved, let's just save the changes. We have initially completed one activity so that it moves down to interaction history. Now let us again go to my lead and we click on prospect. So let us now scroll down to the corporate account to find the planned activities and interaction history. So as you can find in the planned activities, we have 3 transactions which are in the status open, and in our interaction history also we have 3 transactions that have the status open. We have basically the same transactions 1 to 151, 1 to 156 and 1 to 161. 1 to 151, 1 to 156 and 1 to 161. So the same transactions in the planned activities as well as interaction histories which have the status open. Now going back to our configuration, let's make the configuration for interaction history as completed and we again save it. So basically if you see that we can define it for a time frame. Now maybe let's do one thing. For the activities, let's assign the time frame as this year. We assign it for this year. Now if you see the transaction, the start date and the end date, it lies in 2013. The present date is 2014. So if I save this configuration and I go back, so let us refresh this. So I again go to my lead, again go to my prospect, and if you see in my planned activities, I don't have a result. And why so? Because I have changed the settings to display it only for the current year, and because the current year is not 2013 but 2014, I don't see this transactions. You'll see those activities that has been created prior to 2014. So now let us see when now let us see when you try to create a new entry over here. We have to first give the PFCG role ID if you wish. Let us then select the area, whether it's for activities, whether it's for interaction history, whether it's for sales order. So this was for activities, interaction history, lead, opportunities, the area for which you are doing the customizing. Then you have to do the settings for time frame, and you can then filter it based upon the status. Let's revert it back to let's remove the YA, save our changes. So if you see in opportunity also we are not able to see any result. Reason being we have inserted time frame. So if you remove the time frame from here and from quotations and we save it, so we have an area where there is no time frame and it will only be filtered based upon your status. So all opportunities, those are open, all interaction histories, those are completed, and all activities that are open will be displayed to you. Let's save our changes and we go back to Web UI. So let's refresh it again. Let's go back. Let's go to a prospect. Now let's scroll down to our planned activities, our interaction history. So you have only that transaction which has been completed and which has been moved down to our interaction history. So it shows only that transaction that's completed, and all the open transactions are stored in planned activities. If you again scroll down, we have an opportunity which was created in 2012. So since we have removed the filtering based upon time frame, it's visible. So the time frames that we are assigning, it's different for different transaction types because we have different kinds of dates in a transaction. So you must be wondering which date it is considering for determining the time frame, because it has a start date, it has an end date, it has a closing date. So in the case of interaction history, the period refers to the posting date. In case of activities, it's the start date and end date. And in case of opportunities, it refers to the start and closing date. So we saw how we can create the different settings for interaction histories, in activities, opportunities, and all those transactions to be shown in your business transaction, and you can filter it based upon the time frame or based upon the status. So with this, we saw the different features of transaction processing. So thanks a lot for your attention and wish you happy learning.